Hey, Pat here for week 48, the dwindling few weeks remaining of season 2, and I am joined, of course, by Matt.
Always here.
Yeah, always. Always and forever. Alrighty, so let's hit the free champions, then we'll go over the sales. So, top of the charts, at least on my version of the list, is Dr. Mundo, um, who I'm actually rather interested in because I've recently switched to learning how to do the jungle. I, uh, I want to learn how to jungle, and Mundo is still one of the current, at least in the current meta before the jungle changes. Mundo's pretty good at that. The things I know about him is he's got
Yeah.
a health regenerating passive. He's got a little damaging thing around him. His cleaver does slow, and doesn't his ultimate like heal him for forever?
Yeah, I think if I remember right, his ultimate is just a huge amount of health regen on him. Basically, it makes him, everyone please attack me because I'm not going to die.
Yeah, I think his
If I
whole
remember, yeah, it's a speed boost. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a speed boost and a massive amount of health regen. So he can basically use it to get away and never die.
yeah. That's always I hate that about Mundo. If you don't have an ignite or you don't build a grievous wound item, Mundo can be a serious problem for any team. I guess for people that are interested or worried about Mundo, you'll see him in the jungle, and you may see him top lane. You're not going to find Mundo in any other lane position. And if you want to play him,
Yeah.
Spirit Shroud, which is a piece of armor that increases your healing by I think a third, is a must-have item for Mundo.
Yeah, I don't. It's very rare I ever see Mundo not take that item. He's definitely a pretty scary guy. He's got decent ganks. He's got a skill shot on that cleaver. One thing you got to keep in mind when you're confronting a Mundo is that usually he'll do some damage to you, but if he's building tanky, he's not the biggest threat on the enemy team, and he's usually the hardest thing to kill on the enemy team. Fills the role of a tank that way very much. Usually try to take out anything before Mundo if at all humanly possible.
Yeah, he's the quintessential shoot the medic, not the tank from that old Team Fortress 2 comic. All right, moving on, we have Miss Fortune, who is an AD carry. I have very little experience with her, other than to say that she is very evil for taking the Make It Rain skill name. She's got an AOE ability that rains cannonballs, and her ultimate, I would say, is probably the big thing to worry about. If you hear her laugh, she's going to do a giant cone of damage in front of her. She has some passive where hearts appear on her. I don't know what that is. I guess I could check. Do you have anything to say about her
It's
while I check?
yeah, her passive is called Yeah, sorry. Passive is called strut. Basically, it means that if she's not in combat for a certain amount of period of time, she gets a movement speed boost. It's pretty small and almost negligible these days. All the same, it can help her get around the jungle a bit and evade fights if she's not in them already.
Okay, that could be. So it's like Sivir, except Sivir needs to hit somebody. Alrighty, that's okay.
Kinda.
So up next on the AD carry, we have Vayne. The main thing about Vayne. Oh, and Misfortune you'll only find in bot lane. You may see her top lane if someone's insane, but you're mainly going to see her bot lane. Moving on, we have Vayne, who
She's
is
not a very popular champion these days.
you rarely ever see Misfortune. I've never actually played her before. I may play one game with her just so I can say I've played with her. So moving on, we have Vayne. Her whole deal is that she's a late game AD carry. It's very hard to be successful early game with Vayne unless the other person makes mistakes. She has a dodge
hmm
mechanic that I think boosts her damage. She has an ability to pin enemies to the wall, and she can do true damage every fourth hit, I think. And her ultimate allows her to stealth. Like those are some basic ideas. You're only going to see her bot lane, and if you're against her, kill her, kill her, kill her, kill her early as possible.
Yeah, don't let her survive. And if she's in late game, she is almost always a prime focus unless she got shut down hard. Her tumble is more. It's actually an evade. It's not a. It's not a dodge so much. It's not like Fizz's thing. She's still targetable and takes complete damage during that time. It's more about mobility than anything else. Unlike other people, though, she can't use it to go through barriers. She is kind of stuck with a short tumble, with a quick attack damage at the end. It makes her pretty good to harass with that. Her ultimate is the one thing you really got to be afraid of. When she active, two things you got to be worried about with Vayne. Keep in mind, her ultimate gives her ridiculous skill. Basically, it's an enormous attack damage steroid on her. So when she hits it, she's going in to kill something. She's going in to kill something. She's also got ridiculous mobility combined with her tumble because it makes that tumble make her invisible for the entire duration of her ultimate. If she can keep tumbling, she can keep getting out of your range. She'll hit you, go invisible, and then hit you again before you can counterattack. The thing you really need to keep worried about Vayne though is her condemn power. If you're near a wall and she's at the right angle on the other side of the wall to you, she will shoot you with a big arrow that will, if you're next to a wall, pin you to it and do a lot of damage and stun you. That's generally how she goes for a kill. If you're going to lurk in bushes, always be afraid that she can get to the side of you and then pin you to the wall with it.
Yeah, she can also ruin jungle ganks if they're coming around in a corner or something like that. If you want to see a great a great example of that, check out the Taipei Assassins in the final game from season 2.
Yeah,
Alrighty,
very
so
much so.
yeah, moving on. Yet again, relevant to me because I'm trying out junglers. Skarner, the jerk from the jungle. Basic ideas about Skarner is he has an armor and speed boost on his W. He has an AOE little short-ranged melee attack. He can shoot a little blast of energy that if he hits someone who's been hit by it, he'll heal. And his ultimate is the thing you're really going to have to either really use a lot or be wearisome of. He hits you with basically a Star Trek style tractor beam, and he could drag you away into his enemy team or into a team of mushrooms. Any advice on
Yeah.
him?
Hard to say. I will tell you, Skarner is probably one of the top jungling champions right now, if not the top jungling champion. Just because of those massive ganks, that massive speed boost, that great survivability in the jungle, and the armor he gets. He's got great ganks, great clear speeds, and with a lot of survivability, makes him a very popular jungle these times. And that ultimate, it's got more range than you think. You think it's melee, but it's actually got a small, decent amount of range to snare you with that, and then trail you back, and he can grab you out of a flash with it too. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's one of those annoying ones that'll follow you. And humorously, this has nothing to do with anybody, but originally before they patched it, you could snag someone and then teleport them into the fountain and just kill
Yep.
them that way. I'm interested in trying Skarner. I've never won a game of Skarner before, so hopefully I'll be able to do that this week. Now that I've lost my wonderful, wonderful Kazakhs. Next in the Purple Champions, we have Alistar. He is in the jungle. He is on bot lane, so he's both a jungler and support. He's got a bunch of health. He's famous for his combo move, Headbutt Pulverize. So Pulverize is an AoE ability right around him. He knocks people into the air. Does pretty good damage too. Headbutt, he can charge at someone and knock them away. So that's pretty good. And what you want to do is you want to do that charge move. And if you're mashing Q while he's heading forward, there's actually good timing. Mashing sometimes works. You want to learn the timing. But if you're bad Alistar like I am, mash that Q, and you can immediately knock them into the air, do pretty good damage. His E is a fantastic, I think a really underrated heal that he does not only to everyone around him.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, not just for himself, but for minions, so you can have a forever push. And if an enemy minion dies near him, it shaves a second off that heal. So in heavy pushes, Alistar can be constantly healing. And his ultimate basically makes him
Mhm.
unkillable. It's a flat he removes basically 50, 60, and I think up to 80 at the max level of the move of just flat damage. Any damage he takes, he just shaves that amount off of it. So he's a great initiator. He can be a scary jungler, very item dependent, blue buff dependent jungler though. He needs a lot of mana to successfully jungle. He's a great hero. He's a fantastic hero. Any advice?
I got nothing to add to that.
Yeah, I love Alistar. He was my first favorite hero in the game. So I've got very, very high thoughts of Alistar and dresses the cowboy if that skin is still available. Here we go. So I'm going to shut up because I know you know this support very well. It is Janna. Talk about
Uh,
Janna.
we've got we got Janna, the deposed support queen of bot lane. Janna's still very, very strong support character. You will not see her do anything else unless they're trying to troll you. She can go mid. It can be kind of decent to do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do mid Janna.
They
She
nerfed
is
her real
just a
hard.
fantastic support. Yeah. What she's got for her is she's got a lot of moves. She's all about. She has no heals aside from her ultimate. She's all about survival and control of a lane, and that's really one of the best things you want in a support lane. Her shield that she'll throw out there will not only absorb damage, but so long as it is up, also provide attack damage to the AD carry, which is why she's a perfect best friend babysitter to the bottom lane that way. So, say if you're about to take harassment, she can throw it up on a shield and then you'll shrug it off. Or if you're going to go in for a quick poke, she can throw a shield on you, and then that poke is so much more effective. In addition to that, she's got a charge cyclone, which is just a straight move, and she can charge it, which will increase its range now, I think, as well as the amount of knockup time it gives. Basically, it's an area of effect knockup that you can use to disable an entire team for a second and a half during the middle of a team fight to let people get away. Um, One of the awesome things about Janna is her insane movement speed. Her W, I think it is. It's been a while since I played Janna. She gets a Zephyr ability that basically increases her movement speed and can act as a slow if she decides to use it. It's the closest thing she has to a nuke if you want to level it up that way, but the real reason you level it up is because you only need to put one skill point in her tornado. Always look out for that. Level the shield first to be awesome for your team, and then max that Zephyr so that you can zip around and just plant wards everywhere and get away before anyone can threaten you. She's really safe at roaming the jungles to plant wards as the team needs them, simply because she is so difficult to lock down because of her knockup, her fast movement speed, her slow. She's a great champion like that.
Yeah, she's really good, and you want to team her up kind of like if you see Caitlyn or another poke hero, because at max level, her shield will give basically a free BF sword, so she can really kind of change the lane
Yeah.
that way. It should be a good match for Vaynes. Free week Vaynes. Free week Vayne and free week Gianna can work together. Change the
Oh,
world.
definitely.
Alrighty, so
Those
moving on.
Vayne Temple pokes will.
Oh, yeah, that'll be terrible.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so moving on, we have Cho'Gath, another cursed hero for me. I've never won a game as Cho'Gath, but it was a Dominion game, so that was a bad idea in general. He is a top laner, and we're now kind of seeing him in the jungle. He's got another character with a pop-up move. You'll see a circle on the ground. He can knock you up in the air. He has a little cone of silence in front of him that he can do. One of his abilities is just he basically just shoots knives out in front of him. That's kind of what it looks like. And its ultimate allows him to do a massive amount of true damage. And if he kills someone with that, he gains the model physically gets bigger, and he gains a lot of health. So he can become more and more fearsome looking depending on the skin. And, well, just in general, he looks very scary when he gets large. And he will have a ton of health. Yeah, top lane
Yeah.
jungle. Any other stories about the the Cho'Gath?
Cho'Gath is definitely he's fallen out of favor a bit, but he's definitely one of the. You'll see him AP mid actually sometimes. Not as often as you'll see him top, but people have taken him mid. He's not a bad champion there because of what he can do to a squishy AP carry.
Oh yeah.
The thing about one of the overpowered things about Cho'Gath that is absolutely insane is his scream. He has a cone area of effect silence that lasts for upwards to 3 seconds, I think.
Yeah, about that
It's
much.
so insanely long for what you think, and he can silence the entire enemy team if they cluster up with that move. It will change team fights. He is ridiculously tanky, and his ultimate, what he uses to grow, does true damage. So it will just eat through enemies who have a lot of health, a lot of armor, or anything. He'll just nom on them.
And,
He's a very scary top lane champion.
yeah, and as a jungler, you can actually combo Smite and the Bite. So you can do a massive amount of true damage to ensure Baron, to ensure Dragon. He has a lot of
Yeah.
utility in that fashion. And I'm going to say he has some of the best skins in the game. That skeleton skin, that deep sea monster, Battlecast Cho'Gath. That doesn't help anyone who's free week, but if you already own Cho'Gath and this reminds you of him, you should buy a skin. Because they look really cool.
You should plop down the money for the legendary skin because nothing is more
Oh,
gentlemanly
Gentleman
than Gentleman
Cho'Gath.
Cho'Gath.
Yeah, and that I would say, I know it doesn't give it any stats, but he actually yells silence when he does his cone of silence, and I'm going to say that is definitely a
It's
buff to that move.
it's pretty epic. And I'm gonna pat you on the back for not calling him Kog'Maw or Kha'Zix once.
Yay! I've done it. I win the cookie.
Congratulations.
There we go. Moving on, we got Katarina, who you're mainly going to see her AP mid, and I've seen some attempts to jungle with her now that she has been buffed in certain ways. But like 80, 99% AP mid. I've never played her myself, just from observations, and maybe Matt knows more than I do. She has a teleport move of some kind. She can do a little cone of damage.
Shunpo.
Shumpo, yeah, the teleport. And her ultimate is she spins around like a top and throws knives and does lots and lots of damage if you don't stun her. Any other advice?
It is an enormous amount of damage. The main thing to remember about Katarina is I
Oh,
don't. I've never gotten quite used to her new form. Her old one was definitely a pub stomper, just simply because it requires a small amount of coordination to shut her down. Always save your stun for Katarina. If you've got any kind of CC that can stop a channeled move, save it for Katarina in the fight. I don't care what the other enemies are doing. Because her ultimate, if unchecked in the middle of your team, is insane amount of damage. Even Fiddlesticks, I'm not sure his ultimate compares to what she can do to your team if you do not shut that down. Unlike Fiddlesticks, you can shut it down after she started. Knockups will stop her, silences will stop her, and stuns will stop her. Always keep those ready.
yeah, so if you're laning against her, watch out. She can do a lot of damage, and She's very popular. If you want to learn how to play her, you could probably find anybody, any AP like Skara or Jackie. I don't know if Reggie streams, but they all usually play Katarina at least once a day, and you can get some good tips out of that. Speaking of AP mid, we have Victor, the Machine Man. I'll let you do most of the talking about this
Oh shit.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I know who I'm playing this
yeah.
coming week. I gotta buy this guy.
um, the main thing that I'll mention first before you go into his skills is that he starts with an item, and you choose partway through the game to it costs 1,000 gold, and you can upgrade it. And oh, who am I kidding? Use it to upgrade the Death Ray. He has a Death Ray. That's the only thing
Yeah,
only thing you should get, and they need to buff him in some
that's
way.
that's the real issue with him right now. Is it's just the other augments you can upgrade are okay, but that death ray, what it gives him is the nuke on his E, which is his death ray, is just insane. It's I don't think other AP carries in mid have a nuke with that range and that damage. It is the move that you want more than anything else, and that's why you want to get the augment death ray, because it adds a significant tick DOT to that death ray of his. It is an enormous poke. Never underestimate the range that he can hit you out with that. However, his other abilities that he's got a power transfer, which is basically a targeted ability, so he doesn't have to skill shot that. Is a straight, he'll hit you, do some damage, and then when it returns to him, he'll get a shield to absorb damage. It's in theory good for trades. In practice, you'll find that you'll still take more damage, usually before the skill power transfer gets back to you for the shield. But it's good enough in team fights. It's good. You want to keep it around. Probably max at 1 second. Yeah, I'd say max at second. Gravity Field, I don't know how I feel about that. It's basically a weaker version of Veigar's stun. And that it's a big area effect he'll throw down. Anyone who runs through it gets increasingly slowed up to the point where they get stunned. But the range that he can lay that down is very short. It's very hard for him to land that on you outside of a team fight. But if he can, and if a team fight happens on, he's got a great combination and laying down this huge purple gravity field. And then if your team doesn't get out fast enough, he'll just throw a Chaos Storm, his ultimate, on you. And the main thing to remember about his ultimate is that it is a big area effect silence, which we were talking about Shogoth, so a lot of CC this week actually. And it does massive amount of damage when it first goes out, and a smaller amount of tick damage if you stay inside of it. So really the big thing to worry about is when it hits you to begin with, and then it can continue to harass you with it and move it. It can hunt you down after he's already summoned it, and with Gravity Field, you don't have very far to run. And of course, they'll hit you with Death Ray in that, which does more damage than anything in the game, ever.
Yeah, and you can control that cloud like a pet. So either it'll default to the first person it hits, or he'll control it. Yeah, don't sleep on that cloud. I've seen a lot of, back when I was trying to do some casting every night of this game, Victor was usually the surprise champion that won a lot of team fights because people would ignore the cloud and he just wiped the team. I think he's cool. He needs just some buffs to make him more worthwhile when you customize him.
Yeah. One thing you got to keep in mind with Victor right now, if you're wanting to play him, and you probably want to keep this in mind if you're playing against him too, is he's got issues that they just haven't fixed yet. Primarily, his Death Ray has a glitch where it's like almost 50-50. There's no visual for it. It'll go off, it'll do its damage, it'll do everything fine, but no one will see it, which is annoying as hell for both the enemy, who can't see a move that they might otherwise dodge, and for you, because you have no idea what you just did, and hopefully if it went where you aimed.
Yeah, you have to basically base it off of whether or not they're on fire and they're doing the damage over time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking
it's
of
frustrating, and it's, well, one thing we're keeping the Death Ray. If you're going to play Victor for the first time this week, practice with that. It's harder to land than you think, but it's really good and definitely worth learning.
Yeah, all right. So, and finally on the bottom of the list, my heartbreak story. Another hero. I do win games, but there are certain heroes that I don't with, and Ziggs is one of them. I love this guy. He's got this big smile. He's always laughing. He's got all this charisma.
He's happy to be there.
All right, so his basic abilities is he can huck a bomb, and it bounces. You can actually bounce it over minions. You can actually do pretty good long-range shots. His W is he plants a minefield, which can actually do a pretty good amount of damage. It's one of his farming tools, kind of, sort of. He can plant a satchel, which you can use to either send him away or hurt the enemy. So you can kind of move people around or move yourself. That was buffed in some way. I do not remember how, so It was buffed for the better, so that's good to know. And he has a pretty long range, like just artillery shot. If you ever see a skull and crossbones underneath
Oh,
you and hear a maniacal laughter, you're gonna die, or you're gonna at least take a lot of AP damage. His
yeah.
passive is that he, I think every couple of spells, it turns his melee attack into, it scales off AP for one hit. He's got a lot of charisma. I just cannot win for the life of me with this wonderful little Yordle.
Yeah. He's fallen out of love a bit as far as his popularity goes, but he's got a lot of area. He's got a lot of area denial. He can definitely zone pretty strong with between his satchel charge, explosive minefield, and bouncing bombs. Got a lot of mobility to get around to hit you. He can definitely do that very well. The Mega Inferno Bomb, his ultimate, it's the range. If you're understating the range on Mega Inferno Bomb when you say it's pretty, it's got more range on it than Lux's laser. If you're familiar with Lux's laser, just let that soak in a bit, because he can toss that bomb from enormously far away.
Okay, so it gives him like a Gangplank Twisted Fate. You're not really safe if you're low. Not surefire as Karthus,
Very
but yeah,
much.
there's a good chance that if a team fight happens, even though Zig isn't there, he's there. And he will do plenty of
Yeah,
damage.
I can't recall if you mentioned that it does more damage if you're in the center.
Oh, really? I didn't know it did that. Wow. Look at
Yeah.
that. Maybe I should
Oh,
use
yeah.
Zig.
It does max. It does maximum damage. If you're still in the middle. So if you see that around you, try and run out of it. Don't just stand and take the center blow. It will do less damage to you on the outskirts.
Alrighty, and you'll find him in the mid. Alrighty, well that's the rundown of the free champions. So I'll just say I'm definitely gonna play as Skarner. I'll probably ruin my life playing Katarina and Ziggs at least once this week, and we'll maybe experiment with Dr. Mundo because, like I said, trying to learn how to jungle. Who do you think you're gonna? Well, I think I already know who you're gonna use this week, but
Um,
who are you thinking?
Victor. I'll
Yeah.
play Victor as much as I possibly can because for whatever reason I haven't spent the IP to buy him yet.
You should
And I
get
might
that
try
robot
Skarner out
skin.
because I want both those skins. I think they're both pretty badass. I think he's got great skins. The glorious evolution is upon us, Pat.
Yep, yep. So I think this is a really solid week. There's nobody I'm looking at going like, oh man, what were they thinking? So
No.
that's real solid. So let's move on to what I am going to be sinking money into. It's the sale. So yet again, they've second week in a row of the awesome change. Both the champions and skins are the same now. They used to vary it up. So now you can buy Yorick at half off and get Undertaker Yorick, which I'm kind of indifferent about. I'm interested in Yorick. He's a real bully top lane, but he's going to get nerfed real hard at some point. I can feel it. You interested in Yorick?
He's gonna have to be. The complaining on the forums about him is just astronomical through the roof. He's considered to be one of the most unfair champions to take top, right next to Shen, and is banned in most ranked games.
Yeah, you just never see him. So they have to nerf him so people can use him. He's just a real jerk.
That's kind of how they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then up next, my baby, my best friend, Mordekaiser.
But
Oh wow!
they
Holy
picked
crap!
right.
That's what they wrote. I just read the line. Mordekaiser.
Yeah.
I
A
love
dear
this hero.
acquaintance.
This guy is so cool. Who's this supposed to be written by? It is. I don't see who this is supposed to be in the character of. Oh well, somebody that knows
Hecarim.
Mordekaiser. Oh, Hecarim, the horsey
Yeah,
man.
Hecarim.
Well, he likes Mordekaiser.
The horsey man.
Mordekaiser's awesome. He's just
It's
really
a Shadow
great.
Island update. It's the Shadow Island characters who are on sale.
Okay. And something that I will probably be spending money on is they call it Lord Mordekaiser, but it's Megatron Mordekaiser. He looks like a
It's
robot.
the only real skin he has.
What are you talking about? The heavy metal
It's,
skin.
that should be his default skin. His default skin is terrible, and that skin is what he should look like.
This
by
skin
default.
looks really cool. He looks like a Chaos Space Marine. I'm gonna buy it. And then something that I
Yeah.
won't buy, but who knows? Maybe. I think I actually have enough RP left over from like when we used to play LoL. There's Evelyn, who's a jungler, and maybe an AP mid. What do you think of the Evelyn?
I've been seeing a lot more of her recently. I think she's definitely as scary. I've seen her jungle. I've seen her AP mid both ever since the remake. I think she's a much better champion now than she was before the remake. She's definitely more viable. She has a lot of threat, and that stealth to be able to just go past normal wards in the jungle. I don't think that can be understated. I think that's a good power for her to have, and she is definitely. She looks like a fun kind of stealthy, hunty assassin, and
Yeah.
I think I would like to play her.
And
But that skin is terrible.
I would love to. Yeah,
Why
I
haven't
hate
they
that skin.
updated that?
I hate that skin. They need to. She needs a model update. She looks terrible. especially considering like when you look at her art, she's supposed to be like a seductress or something like that, and she looks like you could be
Yeah, even
cut.
her model is just yeah.
She looks
I'm
like she
surprised
would
they didn't
cut you with
update
her
her
knee.
artwork with her mechanics.
Oh yeah, I meant to mention this earlier, but Katarina recently had an art update and she looks fantastic. So there you go. All right, so I
Yeah,
feel really good about this week, and I think that everyone should play League of Legends this week, try out all the champions, and check out some stuff. How about you?
I am excited for the glorious evolution.
The glorious evolution will occur. Alrighty, so we'll see you guys next week for week 49 as we head towards. I think next week is the last week, or either the first week of November is the last week of season 2. So I'm excited for season 3. We'll see you guys in the future. Have fun leaguing.